Welcome to GRE. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold, talking about the condition of today's U.S. housing market, the tiny home movement, when did it have its origins, and though they're popular, available tiny homes are really hard to find, tropical tiny homes and where exactly you can find them today on Get Rich Education. The EQRP system now allows you to shield up to $700,000 of income from taxes every year. My friend Damian Lupo informed me that checkbook IRAs have been made illegal by the U.S. tax court. So if you have a checkbook IRA, your holdings are now disqualified with taxes and penalties up to 50%. But don't panic, Damian and the EQRP team can fix this. This way you can invest your 401k or IRA in real estate, gold, Bitcoin, and even your own business. So whether you're a full-time investor, retired, or even a dentist with dozens of employees, if you're listening, you qualify. The EQRP works. It's the solution. You'll control your retirement money, kill UBIT, and pay way less taxes. I encourage you, learn more about this strategy and free up your retirement money. Get the newest EQRP special report. Text GRE to 307-213-3475. Text GRE to 307-213-3475. Mid-South homebuyers, with over 2 decades as the nation's highest-rated turnkey provider, their empathetic property managers use your return on investment as their North Star. It's no wonder smart investors line up to get their completely renovated income properties like it's the newest iPhone. Headquartered in Memphis with their globally attractive cash flows, Mid-South has an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and 4,000 houses renovated. There is zero markup on maintenance, let that sink in, and they average a 98.9% occupancy rate with an industry-leading 3.5-year average renter term. Every home they offer you will have brand new components, a bumper-to-bumper 1-year warranty, new 30-year roofs, and wait for it, a high-quality renter in an astounding price range, $100,000 to $150,000. Get to know Mid-South. Enjoy cash flow from day one at midsouthhomebuyers.com. That's midsouthhomebuyers.com.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Welcome to GRE. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold, the voice of real estate investing since 2014. This is Get Rich Education. Although everyone needs a place to live, fewer and fewer people need to leave home to go to the office. I think this trend is obvious to most anyone, but let's look at how bad it is. Now, commercial real estate is strictly about numbers. In order to offset higher real estate prices and interest rates, well then rental and occupancy rates need to move higher, and this is an impossible scenario for office buildings. Office prices, therefore, must fall in order to get deals done. And in fact, according to Green Street's Commercial Property Price Index, offices have seen a price drop of 17.5% from their recent peak. That is drastic. That is almost crash territory. And many people feel that office prices are going to fall further than the 17.5% drop that they've already sustained from their recent peak. You've got all these companies like JP Morgan, Citi, Goldman Sachs, and Twitter. They have all tried, often futilely, to get workers back into the office. Companies have attempted indoor gardens and napping facilities and throwing more pizza parties and unfolding ping pong tables. Well, once workers get used to their work from home routine, complete with a hooded sweatshirt and pajama pants and house slippers, that is a pretty hard habit to break. Much of the world shifted to Zoom calls in 2020, and they aren't returning. You've got to remember, too, that regardless of how you feel, some people are still concerned with catching a virus, so they avoid going to the office. Inflation plays a part too. Higher childcare and gasoline and food costs, all those things keep workers at home as well. Well, look, then it is little wonder that earlier this month, J.P. Morgan, the same company that has trouble getting people back into the office, J.P. Morgan recently announced plans to acquire more than $1 billion worth of single-family rentals. They see the trend, and they're putting $1 billion into homes. They're actually build-to-rent homes. This is where the smart money is going. We were ahead of this curve. We were talking about this before this trend even began and really accelerated with the health crisis. You've been doing that here through this show for years yourself. You are finding available properties for this at GRE Marketplace. Last year, we were getting pretty thin on inventory over there, but you can find available inventory in many markets right now in the U.S. Midwest, the South, and available property in Central America too, which is what I'll be telling you about later today. It is all at gremarketplace.com. Here's what else is happening. A typical U.S. house is now unaffordable for Americans earning less than $100,000. According to Redfin, buyers last month needed a salary of at least $107,281 to afford the monthly mortgage payment on a median-priced home. Yeah, a $107K salary just to afford the median-priced home. And that is up about 46% from $74K a year ago. So in just a year, $74K up to $107K. The minimum salary needed to afford the median-priced home. Well, of course that is bad for first-time homebuyers, and that is the opportunity for you. These priced-out homebuyers increase rental demand. And this is just one of many reasons, like demographic reasons and a low supply hole that we're not going to dig ourselves out of for years. These are the reasons that affordable rental housing could be the best place for you to invest your money for the next 10 years. And of course, those torrid appreciation days of 2021 are over. And looking ahead, residential real estate values expect to hold up well in the next couple years. Yeah, office and retail are clearly a different story. So sticking with residential, in fact, the NAR expects 10% appreciation this year. That's obviously decelerating. 1% appreciation next year. And it's expected that in 2024, there will be 5% home price appreciation. And yeah, these future NAR numbers seem pretty reasonable to me, or else I wouldn't have shared them with you. You might remember that on this very show, almost a full year ago now, I released GRE's 2022 National Median Housing Price Forecast, and that forecast showed 9 to 10% appreciation. And hey, that was not so easy to do back then. Hindsight might make it seem easy. Yogi Berra is the one that said it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. 1 year ago, you got to remember how the world looked then. The pandemic was still raging. Supply chains were badly snagged. The war in Ukraine hadn't even begun, and the Fed had not raised rates at all. And 2021, yeah, that was that year when house prices soared nearly 20%, and properties were harder to get than a Birkin bag. Well, early next year, I'm going to let you know the result. 9 to 10% appreciation for this year is holding up pretty well so far. When the rest of the investment world seems to be falling apart, you are investing in something stable and probably making new investment in stable residential real estate. So that is the present and the future of the real estate market from the price perspective. Let's pivot to tiny homes. Now, tiny homes, really, they're not just a construction style. They are a movement. The tiny house movement is really both an architectural and a social movement, and it advocates for this downsized living space, simplifying and essentially living with less. And tiny homes often cater to eco-conscious people, though you don't have to be an eco-conscious person in order to enjoy one. And now, to get a more strict technical definition here, according to the International Residential Code, Appendix Q, which is named tiny homes, a tiny house is a dwelling unit with a maximum of 37 square meters, which is 400 square feet of floor area, excluding lofts. Okay, so that is the strict definition of a tiny home. And this modern movement, it's really considered by some to have started in the 1970s, with artists like Alan Wexler investigating the concept of choosing to live in a compact space. And a few decades after that, with the Great Recession hitting the world's economy from 2007 to 2009, this small house movement really got more attention because it offered affordable, eco-friendly housing. But they are just really hard to find in the United States. Today in America, just 0.3% of the listed homes are tiny homes. So that is fewer than 1 in every 300 listed homes that's a tiny home. They are hard to find. And you know what happens when something is in demand and perpetually hard to find? The prices rise fast. So today we're talking about owning a tropical tiny home in an affordable place, Central America, still pretty proximate to much of the U.S., because our own Aundrea here at GRE bought one herself. So she's going to tell us about her experience with hers. I myself have owned Central American real estate for about 8 years now. We're focused today on affordable, new construction tiny homes in Nicaragua. It's a Central American nation with some stunning tropical beauty, and it has a lot of lakes, which I have floated on, and volcanoes that I've climbed. And then even within Central America, Nicaragua is a more affordable nation, probably with more appreciation potential, therefore, too. And, public sentiment shifts on some things over time, but sometimes when I get around people that haven't traveled very much in their lives, they still ask about safety with some regions of the world. And it is good to ask about safety, but some people, and it seems like it's always people that haven't traveled much, they seem, I guess, inordinately concerned about safety. Now, just picture this. What if recently, just say hypothetically, a mob created a rebellion, an insurgence, and broke into a Central American nation's Capitol building and broke the glass and pounded down doors and broke in with weapons, and politicians scrambled and people died. All right, hypothetical scenario over. Well, what I just described is the insurrection in the United States last year. Yeah, that unfortunate event recently happened in Washington, D.C., not a place in Central America. I have walked around Managua, which is Nicaragua's capital and largest city, by myself late at night, and I have felt completely safe. But yeah, there are parts of Managua where I would not do that. And that's also the same thing that I could say about most any U.S. city. You could probably spot this too. You probably run into people where if they have the wrong perception about an area, well, pretty soon you come to find out that they have never actually been there. Now, most of the buyers of tropical tiny homes in these communities are North Americans. The prices for them today are about $200K, as you'll find out. Some of the smaller models cost a good bit less than that. And you can do what you like with your tropical tiny home. It is yours. You could live in it year-round, or you can do what most people do. They use it a few weeks a year, and then they rent it out, the other ones. They put it in a short-term rental pool. Yeah, as an option, the provider of these homes in these communities, they know how to do the management and the marketing of your home for you. And importantly, this provider is one that I've been working with for 6 or 7 years now. They are an international organization with about 100 employees. And the point is that they are not hobbyists. One thing I've learned in my years of international real estate investing is to be careful with the word gonna. Some hobby developers that want to surf half the day, every day, are not bonded. So they often say what they're gonna do, but they don't have any real plans or any real track record that you can count on. So we're talking about a professional company with a track record today, and you can get full title ownership to your tropical tiny home. That's coming up straight ahead. Hey, coming up down the road here in future weeks on the Get Rich Education podcast, shows on the future of real estate. What about this eat the rich sentiment? Is it wrong to want to ethically create wealth? We'll explore that for an episode and lots more. And hey, if you love the GRE podcast, please tell a friend or family member about the show. I would really appreciate that. And if they don't know about podcasts, some people still don't, you can listen through the dedicated Get Rich Education mobile app for iOS and Android. Of course, it's free to listen there, just like it is everywhere. I'd really appreciate you telling a friend about the show. Straight ahead, Aundrea figuratively takes us inside her tropical tiny home. I'm Keith Weinhold. This is Get Rich Education. If you're looking to grow your passive income from real estate, pay attention. My Property Stats is a deal analysis tool developed by an active investor to cut the time it takes to analyze any deal by over 90%. For any real estate class, you can calculate the exact price to pay to hit your cash flow and IRR goals. Build a world-class pro forma. Calculate the most you should pay for a renovation. Run multiple scenarios with a comparison tool and more. My Property Stats is the all-in-one toolkit for real estate investors. That means more deals, more cash flow, and more returns. Go to mypropertystats.com/GRE now and use the coupon code GRE to get 10% off your first year. That's just $90 a year for a tool that can save 10 hours per deal. No more spreadsheets, no more juggling multiple files. Use coupon code GRE to get 10% off at mypropertystats.com/GRE. Knowing the difference between a turnkey provider and a vertically integrated rental property company can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of your investment. Some companies sell you a property they don't own, renovate it with contractors they don't control, refer you to a property management company they don't manage, all in multiple markets because they can't source enough inventory. That's why truly passive investors work with our friends at JWB Real Estate Capital, perhaps the country's only vertically integrated rental property investment company. They operate in one market, Jacksonville, Florida, and their whole job is to make investing in rental properties easy for you. In fact, because of their vertically integrated approach, their clients have gained 79% more home price appreciation than the overall Jacksonville market since 2013. Find out more about why it pays to invest with JWB. Call them at 904-677-6777 or go to jwbrealestate.com/GRE. GRE listeners can't stop talking about their service from Ridge Lending Group and MLS 42056. They've provided our tribe with more loans than anyone. They're truly a top lender for beginners and veterans. It's where I go to get my own loans for single-family rental property up to 4 plexes. So start your pre-qualification and you can chat with President Chaley Ridge personally. They'll even deliver your custom plan for growing your real estate portfolio. Start at ridgelendinggroup.com.
Hi, this is Russell Gray, co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio show, and you're listening to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Hey, well, I'd like to bring in my right-hand person, our own COO here, Aundrea. How's it going, Aundrea?
Hey, Keith, doing well. How are you?
Hey, good, but I think we're going to be doing better because as North America descends into winter time here, we're going to be having some tropical thoughts today, drumming up some of those. And you bought property through our GRE marketplace provider. And oftentimes we like to have a listener here on the show to talk about their experience in buying a property and getting that income generated in their life through real estate, through our providers at GRE marketplace. And also here at GRE, we like to buy ourselves through GRE Marketplace. We truly do what we say and say what we do. We eat our own cooking, and you bought yourself Aundrea a tropical tiny home at gremarketplace.com/tinyhomes. Aundrea's going to share some screenshots today of this exciting tiny home that she got in Nicaragua. So for you that are listening in the audio only, we'll try to be really descriptive of those as Aundrea opens up and shares some things with us. So yeah, Aundrea, I think first of all, maybe one would want to know, okay, now why did you decide upon Nicaragua?
That's a great question. So Nicaragua was my first international investment in real estate. So that was pretty exciting. But for me personally, I had lots of options. This particular provider that we work with, they have them in many different countries throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. And I picked Nicaragua because I like the country a little bit more than others, meaning there are certain areas that aren't quite as developed. It's a little bit more adventurous to me. And so that's the reason I picked it as opposed to some of these more developed countries.
Because a lot of times you get a substantially better price.
That's right. It actually was quite a bit cheaper than some of the other countries. That didn't factor as much into my decision. Price-wise, it was more of, I just like a little bit more adventure. So while this property is on a resort, I still have the option to go to some of the cities and stuff that are pretty close.
All right, well, that's good to know. And one, sure, it might get a better price, even if that's not a principal consideration compared to what you might pay for a place with beach proximity in Southern California or Peninsular Florida or what have you. We're talking about Grand Pacifica in Western Nicaragua. Now, Nicaragua is closer to the United States than a lot of Americans think. It's about a 3-hour, 10-minute flight from Houston. And then I have been on the west coast of Nicaragua, but I was further south than where you bought your tiny home. I was in San Juan del Sur. So in order to get from the capital and where most all international flights come in Managua there, what is it? Is it about a 1-hour drive out to your tiny home?
Yep, approximately. It's very close. I think it's the closest resort in Nicaragua to the airport. So,
yeah, now that's really important, that access. So you're definitely far enough away from the capital to get that resort beachy feel, but yet you have good access at the same time. So really well positioned that way.
Yeah, it is. It really is. That was one of the considerations as well.
Why don't we go ahead and take a look at what one of these completed tropical tiny homes looks like? And we want to learn about just what you paid for one of these tiny homes. All right, here we go. It looks like a rendering of a 2-story completed tropical tiny home, but I'll let you describe it to us, Aundrea.
Yeah, so this is a rendering of the actual home that I purchased that's being built right now. This is a 2-bed, 2-bath home. There is 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom on the top level there. There's a bedroom and a bathroom on the bottom level also. And then you can see in the rendering here, there's this little kitchen space that opens up to the outdoor patio. I think on the inside, if I remember correctly, it's about 448 square feet. And then externally total, it's just under 700 square feet.
Okay, so 448 square feet divided amongst 2 stories, a bedroom and a bathroom on each story. And the second story there, it looks like it has a balcony.
It does, yes. And then I don't know how much you can tell from the photo here, but this is also a solar paneled home. So you have the option of using the solar power to power the home, or you can switch it to the grid. So you have both in case there's, you run out of power, solar's not working. If there's a power outage, you then have the solar power that can kick in as well.
That is a really good option there. How much did you pay for this tiny home?
I will use a disclosure that the current prices of today are nowhere near close what I paid for when I went under contract about 1.5 years ago. With furniture and everything, I paid about $150 1.5 years ago, fully furnished. I believe this same model is going for a little bit closer to $200,000 right now.
Yeah, construction costs are only going up with inflation in the price of both materials and labor, of course, and prices will probably never be as low again as they are today. So yeah, that's a really good looking home there. We'll take a look shortly at just what it looks like as far as how it's situated in the development here.
So this is the master plan of the tiny home community. Mine is number 16. So I strategically picked somewhere that was closest to the bar and the pool because that's what I plan on probably doing on my time when I'm there. But there's still available homes in this community, which is surprising to me. So there's still plenty of homes available in the community, both that are already under construction. And I think there's lots available also for new builds.
For those in the audio only here, we're looking at a plan view where it looks like we have some small cul-de-sacs leading to homes. Maybe I see something like 3 or 4 dozen homes here on this view, and it looks like it's surrounded by quite a few trees.
There are trees all around the development. There is a river that actually runs on one side of it, furthest away from the ocean. And then you also have access, I believe the tiny home community is about 200 yards, which don't quote me on this. I want to say that's about 600 feet away from the beach itself. So it's
Great.
very, very close.
That's really good. And then what is access like from the highway?
You have to drive a little bit through the community to get to it, but it's not far at all. It's just a minute or two.
Well, this begins to develop in one's mind's eye the actual activities that one can do outside of these brand new construction tropical tiny homes. Tell us about some of those activities, beach and ocean and otherwise.
Yes, you have the river, you have the beach, you've got parking places that are in between the beach and the homes. And then some of the kind of activity areas they've set up there is there's a butterfly garden on the opposite side of the pool and bar. There's a yoga area and a viewing tower if you want to be able to see the whole community. One of the things I think is really neat is they have a communal garden where you can actually go and get locally sourced and grown plants and food, and you can plant your own too. There's, as I mentioned, the workspace, the bar and restaurant. So there is a restaurant right there in the community. And then they also have a bird watching area for those that like to do that.
I think I've heard more about the bar than the beach at this point, but that's quite okay. But really, the point is that this developer's done business in this region for more than 20 years, and they understand that it isn't just about home building. It's about building a community and a sense of community and activities and things to do right there on site, should you so choose.
That's right. Yep. You have access to all of that. And I don't know the most recent update on this, but when I started having conversations with the developer, I think they're planning on doing an American school on the premises. It won't be within EVA Tiny Homes itself, but in Grand Pacifica, they're looking at building grocery stores and other things like that in the future developments.
Before we go ahead and look at some more imagery there, tell us about the process for getting started, because like I mentioned, these are new build homes. So tell us about that process. A lot of times a foreigner cannot get financing at all in some of these Central American nations. It can be really difficult, but I know in this case, you could get some financing. So tell us about that loan and starting the construction process.
I ended up, mostly because I was curious about the process, but I ended up opting to do some financing, partial financing on the property. So I believe the lender that they use that's out of Belize, not out of Nicaragua, it's a Belize bank. They have two options. They have 80% financing and 50% financing. Your interest rate changes based on how much you're financing. So I was able to get a much lower interest rate at the time with a 50% financing of the property. 80% was quite a bit higher. So that's why I opted for that.
Okay, that's why you went with less leverage.
Correct.
Then. Tell us about that timeline with the construction process and thinking about the fact that you bought it a year and a half ago. We know what was going on in the world with supply chain disruptions and everything else. So I'm going to imagine it wasn't a smooth construction timeline for you.
It was about probably on par with what we see in the US on average. So from the time I signed the contract to the time I actually sent in my first payment was a couple of months. So it took a little while for me to be able to get all the paperwork mailed, has to be shipped internationally. There's a lot more document requirements that are different than what we experience here with a traditional mortgage in the US. It's not harder, it's just new and different. So I wasn't able to kind of get through things as quickly as I would if I were purchasing here. So I had to do the documents. Eventually, we got the loan approved. So that took probably 1 to 2 months, if I remember correctly. There was lots of information I had to provide for that. You have to set up an actual legal entity there in Belize as well. So I set up a corporation in Belize to hold the real estate. And we ended up transferring our shares in that corporation to the bank itself. So that was something interesting that I don't think I realized I would have to do. So they actually kind of own my shares in the corporation now as well.
Okay, so this is a great way for you, potentially the listener here, to learn about how to be an international real estate investor. And then the provider, they give you this concierge service to make this easy for you.
Yeah, so the provider was kind of holding my hand throughout the process. Anytime I had a question or needed anything, they answered very quickly. So they were kind of the liaison between the legal, government authorities there in Belize, as well as the bank also.
They also have a portal where you as an investor conveniently can log in and take a look at updated construction photos as it moves along and so on. And hopefully your construction should go faster than Aundrea's, I'm going to speculate to say, since we're beyond most of those supply chain snags that we had a year and 2 years ago. But before we look at your portal, Aundrea, and we'll bring that up shortly and see what you can do with that, there are a few different models, a few different types of tiny homes you can buy. As great as the one looked that you told us about there, 2 stories, 448 square feet. Tell us more about why you chose the model home you did and about some of the other models.
There are smaller, cheaper models. You can get studios, you can get 1 bedroom, 1 bath. I believe there's even a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. I chose it ultimately because we plan on spending some time there. And my husband and I probably don't want to stare at each other and our kid all day, every day. So we need a little bit of space. And of course, I need to be able to work for Get Rich Education when I'm traveling also. So I need a little bit more space than I think a lot of people do.
More than 448 square feet at times, depending on your family size and maybe your spouse's disposition that day. Who knows?
That's exactly right.
Tell us some more about that and how you plan to use the home as far as, is it convenient to put it in a short-term rental pool there? Because I would imagine a lot of investor owners like you, maybe you plan to use it a few weeks a year and then rent it out during the other ones.
Great question. So the developer has their own property management company, their own site that does manage it for you. You can opt to put it into the rental program. There are positives and negatives to that. I think they're probably going to do a lot better job marketing the property and getting people in there than I would, because I don't know the area. I don't even know who to market to internationally at the moment. So I opted to go into the rental program. I think that the one con, which wasn't a con for me, but maybe for some people, is that you are limited on the amount of time you can actually stay in the property yourself if you put it in the rental program. You can choose, for example, to stay more than the 2 weeks they allot you during the high season. But if you stay longer than that, you kind of drop to the bottom of the list as far as interest in the property and then marketing it. So they're not going to market you as much as someone who has full availability. So we do plan on going and staying maybe 1 to 2 weeks a year, probably not more than that, because I like maximizing my cash flow and I want it to stay in that rental program.
All right, so it sounds like there are at least 3 options for owners then. Live there year round. Make it your primary residence if you want to. Secondly, you can put it in the short-term rental pool and kind of manage that yourself and do the marketing yourself. Or then thirdly, you can put it in this, I'll introduce the term turnkey rental pool that the developer already has set up for you, or they know about all the marketing channels and the efficiencies themselves.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So there's some real options there. Why don't you tell us, when an investor invests, and you can pull it up here and screen share it with us for the benefit of those in the video audience. And then here for the audio only people, I'll go ahead and describe what we're looking at. So this is your own personal portal to the provider where you can log in and check in with the property and even see those construction phase updates. So tell us some more about this.
One of my favorite things is I don't like having to contact people to ask kind of what's going on. Yeah. They probably don't want to hear from me and I don't want to have to do it. So the nice thing about this developer is they set every single buyer up on their own portal so that at any point in time, I can log in. I can look at photos, which you can see here, of the progress of the home. They even provide messaging updates. If there's anything going on that I would need to be made aware of, they put some notes in the system. A recent example was there was a little bit of delay on construction for just a few weeks. It wasn't significant, but a little bit. And I didn't even have to ask why. They let me know proactively that it's been an unusually rainy season here. So we're not able to build the homes as fast as we normally would because everything's wet. And great. Now I don't have to call you and ask for an update because it's right there in the portal.
Yeah, you're dealing with a professional company with about 100 employees and all kinds of efficiencies and systems here. And here in the portal that we're looking at, and you can take a look at all this again on our Get Rich Education YouTube channel if you're listening in the audio only. For example, even down in the left sidebar, they show the temperature at the development there, and they show the short-term forecast over there in the sidebar. And also just to keep one updated over in the sidebar, they show the job price summary, the contract price paid, any outstanding change orders and things like that. So you can really stay up to date here in your investor portal. Is there anything else with the portal?
They show you, I'm going to try to see if you can see this. They'll have some relative documents if there's anything you need to see or view that'll be uploaded there. They have the option to put videos. I haven't seen those yet, but there are dozens and dozens of photos here. And then here's the messaging app that they have as well, where they can put the comments and the messages. I'll just pull up here a photo, the most recent as of last week of my home here. So you can kind of see it's coming together on the exterior. They're starting to do some of the interior work this week, and it is on track to be completed by the end of 2022. So I'm excited about that.
That's coming up really soon in just a month here. So yeah, we're seeing the external structure there and the block is up.
They actually provide a project plan too. So you have a calendar you can go look at and you can see exactly when they're supposed to starting the next phase. And it details things out like here's the when the tile's going in, here's when we're putting in the countertops and things like that. So I can see everything they're doing between now and the end of December.
Yeah, that is really cool. Do you plan to go down there this winter and check it out once it's complete?
I think it depends on my son's behavior and how his attitude changes over the next couple of months, but probably, yeah.
It's up to your son, your 2-year-old there. Well,
Right.
This has been great, Aundrea. I really appreciate you sharing this with us so much. Is there any last thing that we should know about your tropical tiny home that should be done shortly there on the west coast of Nicaragua, really close to the beach?
I don't think anything else about my tiny home, but I would encourage people, if you are interested, go out to our marketplace, reach out to the developer, talk to them and understand more about what they have available. There's communities other than Nicaragua. So if that doesn't float your boat, you have plenty of options for that. The other thing I would mention is with inflation and how things are going, prices are probably going to go up. So if you want to lock in the pricing that they have now, you may want to move fast and not wait another year or two to get into it.
That's a great actionable tip. Well, I really appreciate you opening up and showing us one of your own homes, Aundrea. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, if this sounds like something that you might like to own yourself, get started at gremarketplace.com/tinyhomes. This particular community that we're discussing in Nicaragua is heavily treed. There are a lot of trees there. The provider also has Panama Tropical Highlands tiny homes and Belize over-the-water tiny bungalows. If diving is your thing, Belize is great for that. And some of these nations also have second residency options for you when you buy a tiny home there. And let's keep in mind, though, that these are tropical tiny homes. Okay, they are a little larger than an RV, but nearly always less than 500 square feet. But the thing is, the attraction is they're really affordable. You don't have to be a deca millionaire to own a second or third home in Central America. And then the financing can really bring it down to a low price and payment for you there on the west coast of Nicaragua, as well as in their other communities. If this sounds interesting to you, you can get started with those and at the same time learn about their tiny home communities in Belize and Panama, all at gremarketplace.com/tinyhomes. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.